to the House-passed funding legislation. So that's pending. But we did so with an understanding that no further votes will occur until the President and Senate Democrats have reached an agreement to resolve this. Let me say that again. We push the pause button until the President, from whom we will need a signature, and Senate Democrats, from whom we will need votes, reach an agreement. No procedural votes, no test votes, just a meaningful vote on a bipartisan agreement whenever that is reached. And it's my hope that it's reached sooner rather than later. It is no mystery why securing our nation's borders is such a major priority for Republicans here in the Senate and Republicans over in the House and for President Trump. Any look at the plain facts leads to one simple conclusion. The crisis of security at our southern border is real. Over the past year, Customs and Border Protection's records of apprehensions and interdictions at our southern border are literally, Mr. President, staggering. 800 known gang members, a 50% increase over last year. Nearly 7,000 individuals with criminal histories, including weapons trafficking and violent offenses. More than double the levels of fentanyl, along with other illicit substances. So the report card is quite clear. America's borders are in crisis. These facts I've stated are not partisan facts. They aren't ideological. They're just facts. Just facts. They don't describe the Republican Party's version of events or the president's version of events. They describe reality. So one would think that securing our homeland, controlling our borders, and protecting the American people would be bipartisan priorities. Uncontroversial, common sense, bipartisan priorities, a core duty of any nation's government. And here's the interesting thing. Until very, very recently, Mr. President, that seemed to be the case. Back in 2006, Democrats were perfectly happy to support hundreds of miles of physical barriers along the border. 26 Democrats voted for the bill, including then Senator Obama, then Senator Clinton, and my good friend, the current Democratic leader from New York. But what about more recently? Earlier this year, Mr. President, the Democratic leader offered $25 billion for physical barriers in his negotiations with the president. 5 times as much as the White House is reasonably requesting right now. And that was just earlier this year. Republicans in the House and in the Senate believe the House's provision for $5 billion in border funding plus additional disaster funding was completely reasonable. I was glad to vote to advance that legislation yesterday. My colleagues and I are proud to stand with the American people on this subject for the safety of American families and the health and security of our communities. But this time, Democrats have rejected that reasonable request. They've refused to meet President Trump halfway and provide even one-fifth of the resources for the border they were willing to provide just a few months ago. There's no bright line of principle that separates hundreds of miles of physical barriers in 2006 from new physical barriers in 2018. There is no major philosophical shift that made $25 billion for border security worthwhile just a few months ago, but makes a far more modest investment of $5 billion immoral, and unacceptable today? No, Democrats haven't rejected the president's request and invited this partial government shutdown because of some principled objection that they just discovered in the last few weeks. It's not some principled discovery they've just made in the last few weeks. They brought this about because they're under a lot of pressure. We all know this, from their far left, and feel compelled to disagree with the president on almost anything, and certainly this. So that's where we are, but we don't need to be here for long. In order to get us out of this mess, a negotiated solution will need to check these boxes. It's really simple, Mr. President, really simple. It will need the support of 60 senators, which will obviously include a number of Democrats. It will need to pass the House, and it will need a presidential signature. That's how we make a law in this situation. 60 votes in the Senate, majority in the House, and President Trump's signature. That's what's needed. That's what will end this regrettable episode. Reopen the lapsed portions of the federal government and produce the investment in border security that our nation really needs. So I'm glad that productive discussions are continuing at this hour between my friend, the Democratic leader in the House, and the White House. When those negotiations produce a solution that is acceptable to all of those parties, it will receive a vote here on the Senate floor.
We arrived at this moment because President Trump has been on a destructive two-week temper tantrum, demanding the American taxpayer pony up for an expensive and ineffective border wall that the president promised Mexico would pay for. Make no mistake, the Trump shutdown is not about border security. All of the proposals we've made contain over $1 billion in new border security money, the same amount allocated last year by both parties, and even the president agreed to. And the Trump administration has barely even spent any of the border security money from last year. So the Trump shutdown isn't over border security. It's because President Trump is demanding billions of dollars for an expensive, ineffective wall that the majority of Americans don't support. Let me remind you, the president called for a shutdown no less than 25 times. He's wanted one for months. In our meeting in the Oval Office, President Trump said he would be proud to shut the government down. Imagine saying he'd be proud to shut the government down. Even Rush Limbaugh, one of the biggest supporters of the president, said it was a Trump shutdown, that he caused it. He said, quote, this is Limbaugh speaking, "The president wants you to know it's money for the wall or nothing. And if it's nothing, he shuts it down." Just 2 days ago, the Senate unanimously agreed to a proposal by Leader McConnell to keep the government open through February. It wasn't exactly what Democrats wanted. We thought it should be longer. But we agreed because we wanted to keep the government open. And all indications were that the president would sign the bill. But President Trump, beholden to the far, far right, unwilling to shoulder even the slightest critique from Rush Limbaugh or Laura Ingraham, changed his mind on the bipartisan Senate bill, passed unanimously by all Republicans and all Democrats in this chamber, and he sent his House allies off to tilt at windmills. Everyone knew yesterday, long before the House vote, that the president's wall lacked 60 votes in the Senate. It is proven to lack even 50 votes. It will never pass the Senate. Not today, not next week, not next year. So, Mr. President, President Trump, if you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall. Plain and simple. The Senate's not interested in swindling American taxpayers for an unnecessary, ineffective, and wasteful policy. What we do support, Democrats and Republicans, is real, effective border security, but not a wall. The wall is President Trump's bone to the hard right people. It's no way to spend $5 billion for a political bone. I've heard the president and his allies in the media say Democrats don't support border security. Nothing could be further from the truth. Democrats have always been for smart and effective ways to secure our border. We're pushing for technology like drones and sensors and inspection equipment. Every single proposal we made to the president included $1.3 billion for border security. The Trump shutdown provides $0 for border security. I have never supported a border wall, and I challenge anyone on the hard right to find a time when I or any expert has supported a wall like what the president has proposed. So, where do we go from here? Well, 3 proposals are on the table. 2 by Democrats, Leader Pelosi and I. 1 by Leader McConnell, each of which would reopen the government and provide $1.3 billion in border security. We're also open to discussing any proposals with the president, as long as they don't include funding for the wall. But in order for an agreement to be reached, all 4 congressional leaders must sign off, and the president must endorse it and say that he will sign it. Leader McConnell must agree. Speaker Ryan must agree. They cannot duck responsibility. Leader McConnell still controls this chamber. Speaker Ryan controls what reaches the floor of the House. They are essential to this process. Leader McConnell can't duck out of it. He knows that. Of course, Leader Pelosi and I must agree. And most importantly, the president must publicly support and say he'll sign an agreement before it gets a vote in either chamber. We don't want to go through what we went through a few days ago. Both Leader McConnell and I have agreed that qualification for a specific reason. Repeatedly, the president has privately agreed to a deal with congressional leaders only to reverse himself when criticized by the far right. We can't have another situation when the president signals support at first, but then reverses himself, which is precisely what caused this shutdown in the first place. If Leader McConnell, Speaker Ryan, Leader Pelosi, and I agree on a solution, and the president says he'll sign it, we can end the Trump shutdown immediately. Discussions continue among the members of our staffs. The Republican leader and I will update the Senate on the status of those talks once progress has been made. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Kenny G. Hey, you know how you go Christmas shopping at the mall during the holidays and it's crowded and stuff? Do you know that? And then it's hard to find a parking space and things. I hate that. You probably hate that too, right? Okay, let's get jolly with Sleigh Ride on Santa 1099. That was ridiculous.
Yes, it was. Your delivery was ridiculous. I know I sent you an email about talking about the parking lot. That doesn't mean you just walk through the
Because it's stupid. Every bad DJ is talking about parking lots.
You need to sell it. You need to think about what it's like for you to be in a crowded parking lot. Put yourself there, okay? You need to relate and be enthusiastic, but calm, and soft, but louder, but kind of in the middle.
Was I jolly enough?
Hold on a second. Our research is showing you're 42% less jolly than you should be.
What do you research? What do you...
Yeah, just did a likability focus group on you, and they hate you.
Well, not feeling really jolly now. I mean, I used to be somebody, and now I'm working at this crappy station, and you call me every break and you tell me what to do.
That's right, because you can't grasp it for yourself. I'm the boss, and I know what we need to do to own the angry people in parking lot at malls at Christmas shopping demographic. We need to have these people coming back after the holidays. They're only going to do that if you're both calm and happy.
Okay, nobody's gonna come back after Christmas because we start playing all this crappy music, and nobody cares about the crappy music.
Look at it this way. I'm Santa, okay? You are Santa's little helper. Get it? Santa has a lot of kids and stockholders to make happy. Don't ruin Christmas.
All right, hold on just a second.
Things we remember all through our life. His wonderful things are the things we remember all through our life.
All right. There it is on Santa 1099. You're home for the holidays. Hi, I'm Chris Kringle. And don't forget about the rest of the year here on Santa 1099 when we're called Easy Variety 1099. You're going to love it. We play only the best music from Anne Murray and the best music from the Dave Clark Five and Yanni and only the biggest hits from Men Without Hats. But now, more Christmas favorites with the Beach Boys.
You better watch out. You better not cry.
Only the best music from Men Without Hats and Yanni?
And the Dave Clark Five.
Is there a good song? And who thinks of the Beach Boys when they're thinking about Christmas music? It's Christmas music, man. Nobody's thinking about the Beach Boys.
Think about kicking back on a nice beach chair with a
Do you
towel.
know anybody who has the Beach Boys Christmas album? Have you ever walked into somebody's house and they're playing the Beach Boys Christmas album?
People have said in the past that they like the Beach Boys and they like Christmas. We've combined the two.
And then we take them from the Beach Boys and we tell them, hey, make sure you stick around because Anne Murray is going to be happening after the Christmas music? I mean, nobody listens to that stuff.
But that's why we have to talk about it. Do you realize we are the #1 station during the holidays because of this, what is it, Christmas or?
Yeah, and?
Well, the rest of the year we average 14 listeners a day. 14 listeners in an entire day. I mean, and those are the ones that are stuck in an elevator at work or on drugs in a dentist chair. No one listens.
All right, so you think maybe there's a possibility that's because we're playing the Dave Clark Five?
No, our research shows that people aren't familiar with our product.
That's because we change slogans every frickin' holiday. We're Santa 1099, Thanksgiving 1099, Easter Bunny 1099. I mean, who listens to Easter music? Is there even such a thing as Easter music?
Our research shows that Peter Cottontail tests well with our women 7 to 12 years old audience.
Let me ask you, how about Kwanzaa 1099? How do you explain that? We're the whitest radio, Dave Clark 5. And you put Kwanzaa music on?
Have you ever heard Dave Clark 5's version of Happy Kwanzaa?
No, I
haven't.
I
it's
haven't.
all about diversity, Chris Kringle. Research shows that diversity is one of the public's favorite words.
Okay, all right. Shut up. Hold on. This song's over.
Okay, remember, jolly. Throw in a ho, ho, ho. Relate to the parking lot people.
What?
Make it jolly. Bowl full of jelly. Mistletoe.
Hold on.
Stockings held by the
Quiet. There it is on Santa 1099, your home for the holidays. Hi, I'm Chris Kringle. Ho, 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 ho. Hey.